Hey there guys, and welcome to this episode of Gearist TV. Today we're going to be talking about the Nimble R2 from Helly Hansen. Yeah, I said Helly Hansen. They're not really known for their running shoes, but to be honest, Helly Hansen has been making some running shoes and fitness shoes for a while now. Up until this point, again, they've been fitness shoes or really kind of trail shoes and things like that. But this is their first, honest to goodness, lightweight road shoe, the Nimble R2. So was this company that's usually kind of associated with yachting and outdoors and things able to produce a solid road shoe? Let's take a look. As always, we're going to start with the outsole of the shoe. Now, the first thing that we're going to point out is that it is a full contact outsole, which means there are no gaps. In other words, there's no big cutout here where the arch is or anything like that. Basically, the shoe comes in contact with the ground front to back fully, with the exception, of course, of these the cuts and the flex screws and things like that. But in general, full contact outsole. Now, the outsole material is here. This lighter blue stuff is called Helly Wear, and this darker blue is called Helly Grip. Now, the Helly Wear rubber is a carbon rubber compound, which, because it's on that lateral portion of the heel there, is meant to provide more durability. That's where the foot is going to land as it comes into the ground like this. The darker blue, that Helly Grip we talked about, is more of a blown rubber compound. Now, that's also going to be durable, plenty durable, but not nearly as durable as the Helly Wear, but it is meant to be more sticky rubber to provide, as the name would suggest, more grip. I have to say that one of the things that strikes me about this, and I've got about 25 miles on this shoe, is the durability. It's done very well, and I cleaned it off a little bit today for the review, but in general, there's really very, very little wear. You can see a little bit here, and then under the forefoot, I do tend to be that forefoot, midfoot runner. Apart from the durability of this, I did find the traction to be good. It's nothing that I'm going to take on a trail or anything like that, but I did have a couple sprinkly days where there's a little bit of rain, and I got a chance to take this out, and it did a nice job. Nothing overly stated about it, and just kind of gripped the road like I thought that it should. Now, that full contact outsole, one of the places where it doesn't, the only gap of the rubber is right here, which you can see is on the lateral outsole, the lateral right under the arch, the midfoot. Now, what's strange to me about this is that they did choose to run the rubber all the way up the medial side, but when a foot hits the ground, in pretty much 100% of people, it's either going to land flat like this, or it's going to land laterally like this. It's going to land in a kind of almost supinated way. Even if you're a pronator, that's how your foot hits the ground. Trust me. And if you don't believe me, just try filming yourself running at a camera from some time. Anyway, the whole point is that if you're going to put rubber on a spot on the shoe, this is where you want to put it, not here. So it's a little bit baffling, and I'm not using this as an insult. I'm just intrigued or confused as to why there's a gap here but none here. If I had it my way, I would have moved this rubber over here and kept it as that Helly Wear rubber, the higher density rubber. But no big deal, does a good job for an outsole, and it's got these flex screws that go through 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, wait, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4 that go up into the midsole, which we're going to talk about now. Now, the midsole on the Nimble R2 is this yellow and this kind of blue back here. It's a single density, generally pretty traditional EVA foam. Now, what's great about it is that right here under the forefoot, they have what's called their C-Zone Plus. That C-Zone Plus, which you really can't see until I take the sock liner out, is this kind of additional, which you may not even be able to see that way, there's kind of an additional piece of EVA that goes through into the actual interior of the shoe. What this is this is a little kind of compression area right under the metatarsals where, when that weight is going to really come down on that area, it provides a little bit more cushioning and also provides a little bit more in the way of kind of energy return. Now, it doesn't provide a ton of additional cushioning, but because this is such a firm shoe, which we will talk about more in the ride section, it does a nice job of putting some additional cushioning in that area, which is where the bulk of your weight is going to eventually wind up in any type of gait. As I mentioned, those flex grooves in the forefoot and the midfoot really do a nice job coming through the outsole, through the midsole, and making for a nice flexible forefoot area, which aids in toe-off, aids in kind of propelling the ride forward. The last thing that we're going to mention about the midsole, which if I didn't mention it, I would get letters probably, is the drop of the shoe. The drop of the shoe is actually pretty low stack height, with 18 millimeters of stack in the heel and 13 millimeters of stack in the forefoot for a net drop of 5 millimeters. Now let's get into talking about the upper. And the upper of this shoe is actually wonderfully minimal. You can see there are no big logos on it. There's a HH here and then a Helly Hansen right here. But it's nothing that's overblown or overdone or anything like that. The primary material is this dual layer mesh. which basically creates an air barrier between your foot and the outer layer of mesh, which is nice for ventilation. This is a very, very breathable shoe. As such, the holes in the mesh are wide open. And if you're running on this with like some grit and dirt, things like that, you may find some of that getting inside, sand and things like that. In general, it will keep out the larger debris, but the finer stuff is probably going to be able to sneak its way in there. The support structure on the upper is made from what is most popular these days, these welded overlays. These are very, very flexible, keeps the weight down in the shoe, but still provides a good support structure. Those are backed up by, as you can see here, this little bit of faux kind of patent leather here in the toe cap, and then again around the throat here. Basically what these are going to do on the toe cap, it's going to reinforce the structure of the shoe from pounding inside, but also provides a little bit of bumper if you kick things from time to time, this guy. And then in the throat here, it's going to give the laces a good place to pull without pulling through a lighter weight material. So that's a nice little feature. The heel counter in the shoe is fairly traditional in size and flexibility. It's not terribly rigid, but it's enough there to be able to provide a nice heel cup in the back side of the shoe. One thing that I would like to see in this is the little tongue tie-down thing. As you can see here, there is a lack of that tongue tie-down. You know, the little loop where the laces go through and keeps the tongue in place? This thing, the tongue is all over the place. I put it on and it's comfortable. I'm not saying it's not, but that tongue immediately is like, whoop, slides to the medial side like really quickly on both feet. Not a big deal, but you have to stop and kind of adjust it back. So something to think about. If you're barefoot especially, that's going to be kind of something where it's going to slide and kind of udge its way over the side. In socks, a little bit less so, but still it's going to slide over there. Now, internally, the shoe is fairly seamless, actually. There's not really a lot going on up here. The only place where you might have a little bit of irritation is where the tongue attaches down in this area. I myself don't really run barefoot very often, but as you guys know, I try to in every shoe just so I can talk with an educated opinion about it. I ran for 4 miles in this barefoot. No problems. Even where the tongue attaches, it was not a big deal at all. Also, in terms of foam, this shoe is really well done. There's not a ton of foam going on, but there is enough to create padding where you want it, both on the tongue and then around the collar, especially near the Achilles insert back here. Just a really well constructed upper that's very, very breathable and lightweight. And as per its yachting pedigree that Helly Hansen is known for their yachting clothes, this thing, I would assume, I didn't take it into heavy water or anything like that, but I would assume drains like crazy because this mesh is just so open all the way down to where the upper meets the midsole. As for the fit of the shoe, I don't really have a lot to say about it, to be very honest. It fits very well, and if I don't have a lot to say about it, that's probably a good thing. It doesn't have the widest toe box in the world, and it kind of sort of comes to a little bit of a point, but in general, I found my feet to be very comfortable in it. I didn't feel pinched or crowded or anything like that. In terms of sizing, I found this to fit my size 11 foot exactly where I would want it to. However, I did see somebody else online somewhere, which I can't seem to place who right now, did mention that it ran a hair large, not a full half size or anything, but a little bit. So it might be worth trying on before purchasing it, or just making sure that your return policy with wherever you order it is that you can return it and size it up or down if you need to. Now let's talk about the ride, which I'm sure that since most people have never heard of Helly Hansen running shoes, that's probably a part that you're pretty curious about. One of the really interesting things about the shoe is that Helly advertises it as a shoe for your 5K, 10K, or really good treadmill session. And I would totally agree with that. My first impression of this shoe out of the box and that first run out of the box is that this thing is very, and I mean very, firm. It is a very firm shoe. Now, that C-Zone Plus cushioning up here in the forefoot definitely alleviates some of that a little bit, but if you're looking for a fast responsive shoe that's going to kind of be really firm and give you good ground feel, this has definitely got that. However, if you're looking for something with a lot of cushioning, this is not going to be it. While the foam does its job in compressing and giving a little bit of cushion, it is very firm. This is probably the firmest shoe that I've run in this year, and I've run in some pretty responsive racing flats, so that's saying something. The plus side of that firmness is that it is very responsive and has excellent ground feel. Now, again, in terms of distance, I agree with the 10K and under thing that Helly Hansen advertises. And I could imagine somebody maybe doing a marathon in this, but it would definitely take a lot of transition and adaptation for their foot to be feeling right in the shoe over the course of a marathon. Overall, I really think that the Nimble R2 does a great job of being a well-constructed and not very frilly shoe. It doesn't do a lot that doesn't need to be there. This simplicity and well thought out construction means that the weight gets to stay down. So in a men's size 9, this shoe is going to come in at 7.75 ounces, which again is a very nice weight, especially for their first stab in the running shoe game. You know, Helly Hansen is not known for their road running shoes, and in fact, when I've shared this online in a group that I'm a member of on Facebook, most of the guys and girls in there were like, wait, Helly Hansen makes running shoes? What? They do make running shoes, and this is a good one. I think there are a lot of improvements to be made upon this, but this is a great first shot at that the road running world. And if they stay true to where they're heading with this shoe, I think there could be some really pretty cool things to come from Helly Hansen. My question for you guys today is, what running shoes have you run in by companies that you didn't even know made running shoes? Leave your answer in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Gearist TV. Please don't forget to subscribe to our lovely YouTube channel and also follow us on all our social networks, which are right over here on the right, including up at the top there, my personal Strava account where you can follow all of my training. Again, don't forget to visit Gearist.com where all of our reviews live, all of our news articles and things like that. We've written articles, the history of the bicycle helmet a few weeks ago, so definitely check those out over at Gearist.com. If you've got any questions about this review or any review, don't hesitate to leave it in the comment section below, and we'd be happy to answer you as soon as we get the chance. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.